Fiscal discipline. Obama says he's got it. He says he's got the corner on the market on fiscal discipline. And he's, of course, laying out his newest plan, which is attack the Republicans. Wow, how novel. He's in Parma, Ohio, just outside of Cleveland yesterday. And here he goes, back to the well, talking about that big deficit that he inherited. Cut one, Sherry.
When I walked in, wrapped in a nice bow, was a $1.3 trillion deficit, sitting right there on my doorstep. A welcoming present.
Oh, yes. Okay, let's set the record straight one more time, please. When President Bush, in his last full year in office, his deficit was, a little over $400 billion. It's pretty significant. The 2009 year, and I guess this is how the Obama people are putting this together. You see, 2009, that budget was shared by by Bush and Obama. It was because, Bush was on his way out, and Obama was coming in, and Obama didn't stop the bleeding. TARP was a part of that, and at the end of the day, the budget deficit for 2009 turned out to be about 1.75 trillion. That's what it was for 2009. So some of that is because of Bush and TARP, and then the rest of it's because of Obama. Obama can't blame Bush for that. Listen, Bush's last year in office, it was a little over $400 billion, and conservatives were totally outraged by that. Let's just keep it clear. Obama took that and just blew it up. And I want to also let you know some other statistics here, because this is very important. I know it's early, but let's just get this out on the table here. If you look at President Bush, he presided over a $2.5 trillion increase in the public debt through 2008. That's over his 8 years. The national debt increased $2.5 trillion. Okay, now, setting aside 2009, because, again, Bush and Obama share responsibility for that. Obama's budget is going, right, just based upon today's numbers, Obama's budget's going to add another $5 trillion in debt just over the course of 2010 to 2016. So, Obama's doing this on steroids. He can't keep pointing the finger backward. He's trying to, because, listen, at the end of the day, it takes a little work to understand the numbers. And he's just assuming that those rubes in the room have not done their homework. So he can pull this stuff on them. Now let's listen to this next cut here on KSFO, because he's talking about the Republicans and claiming they have no plan. Listen to this.
And when you ask them what programs they'd actually cut, they don't have an answer. That's not fiscal responsibility. That's not a serious plan to govern. Now, I'll be honest. I refuse to cut back on those investments that will grow our economy in the future. Investments in areas like education and clean energy and technology. I don't want to cut those things.
Oh, he doesn't want to cut those things. Now, what does he want to cut? He wants to cut discretionary spending. The Republicans do have a plan, and it involves cutting waste from the government, fraud, abuse from the government. It talks about unfunded liabilities like Social Security, which is, of course, the third rail. Nobody wants to talk about that, but Republicans are want to. You want to get an idea what the Republicans want to do to stimulate the economy and reduce the size of government. Just do a little Google search for Paul Ryan and roadmap, Paul Ryan roadmap, and you'll see exactly some of the great ideas coming from some conservatives within the Republican Party. But again, he doesn't want to cut any. What he does want to cut, President Barack Obama, he wants to cut discretionary spending. Yeah, that's what he's going to do. We're going to cut discretionary spending. We're going to freeze discretionary spending. Well, too little, too late, sir. Because as soon as you got in office, you started ramping up discretionary spending like nobody's business. I'll get into the details on that, but here is Obama with cut 3. Take a listen.
But I am absolutely committed to fiscal responsibility, which is why I've already proposed freezing all discretionary spending unrelated to national security for the next 3 years. And once once the bipartisan Fiscal Commission finishes its work, I'll spend the next year making the tough choices necessary to further reduce our deficit and lower our debt.
You know what I find just amazing? This room full of rubes that he's standing before speaking, they started cheering when they hear there are going to be cuts in the budget. All right,
cuts,
yes! Yay, yay! Well, how about cuts across the board? How about for every department, every nook and cranny of Washington, D.C., we just say, sorry, spending freeze. I mean spending freeze. None of this baseline budgeting garbage. Spending freeze. No, better yet, 10% spending cut. All of you who head up a department, you figure it out. If you have to lay off people, you're going to lay off people. And by the way, we will pay you rewards for making these cuts, just like in private business. You're able to do that 10% cut, tell you what, you're going to get a little bonus in your paycheck. Start cutting. You have to cut out bodies, cut out bodies. Wasteful programs, duplicitous programs, get rid of them. We need to do this. 10% cut across the board. We could do that. We're not going to cut out one department, one program. 10% cut across the board. Just a haircut across the top.
Buzzsaw. Yeah, right across.
But regarding discretionary spending, let me tell you how Obama's pulling the wool over your eyes here with this, and we'll do that when we return. You don't want to miss this on KSFO. The discretionary spending myth Obama was talking about just a moment ago, his plan to freeze some expenditures comes after a year of unprecedented discretionary increases, which inflated current spending levels. So here's how it works. You go back to March of 2009. President Obama signed a $410 billion omnibus spending bill for fiscal year 2009 that increased this discretionary spending by $32 billion, or 8.3% above the previous year. So, he's talking about, we're going to cut out discretionary spending. Well, dude, you went crazy with it last year. I mean, this is nuts. There's got to be some other analogy here. You know, the drunk who says, okay, well, I'm gonna quit soon. I'm gonna quit soon.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
In the meantime, you're powering them down like there's nobody's business. Okay, then in December, he signed another $447 billion omnibus spending bill, which increased discretionary funding by another 12%. So if you do the math, between fiscal year 2009 and fiscal year 2010, non-defense discretionary funding increased 17.4%. Now, I'm not making these numbers up, okay? So here he is saying, well, we're going to put a freeze. We're going to put a freeze. You went nuts with it. Over the last 2 fiscal years, you have increased non-defense discretionary spending, the very same stuff you say you're going to put a freeze on. You've increased it by 17.4%. And that's not even including the stimulus plan. You know, the $787 billion stimulus plan, which ended up at the end of the day, I've seen numbers, it's cost $865 billion. There was $311 billion in discretionary appropriations. So if you add all that up, you've got discretionary spending having increased 57% since Obama took office. I'm not making these numbers up. So again, Sherry, now that you have all the numbers before you, play cut 3 again, because you have just heard that altogether, when you add it all up, he's increased, in his short time in office, discretionary spending, non-defense discretionary spending, he's increased it 57%. So now, with that in mind, listen to this clip again.
But I am absolutely committed to fiscal responsibility, which is why I've already proposed freezing all discretionary spending unrelated to national security for the next 3 years. And once the bipartisan Fiscal Commission finishes its work, I'll spend the next year making the tough choices necessary to further reduce our deficit and lower our debt.
The people sitting behind this man are ignorant fools, they're useful idiots, and all those of you who are buying this garbage are the same.